Refurbishing a model traction engine Part 3, Canopy Repairs and Modification. As I've mentioned before, I sold this engine about 5 years ago to raise some money, and I sold it to a friend of mine, and unfortunately it hasn't been very well looked after. In this clip, as you can see, some of the LED lights are not actually lighting. The canopy shows signs of rough handling, and this is what's probably damaged the LED lighting. In this clip I'm testing them using a battery from a small LED torch. Whenever I build models, I always make them serviceable, so it's quite an easy fix really. It looks like it's had a bit of a bash on this corner. As you can see, the LED's not fixed in there anymore. Believe it or not, when I first tested the lights with the battery, I forgot to count the number of LEDs that were lit. So I'm doing it again, and this time I'm counting the LEDs, so when I take the thing apart, I'll know exactly where the problem is. This is one of the Mahogany Rails that supports the LED array, and you can see how it's put together. I remember having to drill many pairs of holes in the mahogany to start with, and once they were all done, I inserted the first LED, bent the legs over, put the second one in, and bent the legs of that one over, etc., etc. Being wise after the event, there's nothing like hindsight. Really, I should have used a pair of bus bar rails all the way down each side and then soldered the LEDs to that. But at the time that I made the light arrays, I chose to do it this way, and it's been okay. The canopy, complete with the lighting system, was never designed to be roughly handled. And I never thought for a minute that it would need to be removed from the engine, but I got that one wrong. I resoldered LED number 8 to LED number 9, and now they all work, apart from the very loose one at the end of the array. That actually didn't work when I tested it. In this clip I'm soldering in a new one. I'm sure that there will be, out there in the world watching this video, many electronics wizards with their hands feverishly hovering over the keyboard ready to tell me how to do the job. But at the time it seemed to be the simplest way to do it, and it worked fine, until the canopy was removed and roughly handled. Now all the LEDs work, I'm rebolting the hardwood rails back into the canopy. Just in case you're wondering why I'm doing this on the kitchen table, well, it's just convenient. I'm in the house on my own for a couple of weeks, so it's just convenient to work on the kitchen table, why not? As I mentioned earlier, I made these LED arrays very serviceable. They both plug into the box in the centre, which contains a voltage regulator to supply them with power. And the voltage regulator in turn is connected to the generator, which gives out up to 30 volts when it's running, and this is stepped down to the 3 volts required by the LEDs. In this clip you can see that everything's okay now. As I spin the dynamo with my hand, everything lights. This is a great dynamo. The amount of power it gives out surprised me when I first ran it. That is one small canopy job completed. Now for the next one. These are the 2 mountings for the chimney extension pipe, and these were never straight. The holes are in the wrong place in the canopy, only very slightly, but enough to make it noticeable. From the standard of workmanship on this engine, 3 people worked on it. The first one was the best engineer, the second one was also very good indeed, and the third one was no good at all. Even as you see these brackets, I reprofiled them. They were extremely rough. And what I'm doing here is plugging the old bolt holes. All I have to do is put a brass bolt in and keep turning until it shears off, like that. I'm going to extend the bottom of these and make them look something other than just a block of brass. And for this job, I'm currently cutting some strips of brass on my bandsaw. A couple of health and safety notices: be careful when using a bandsaw and be careful when using this stuff. This contains lead, and it doesn't taste very nice anyway. Frylux paint is a mixture of lead, tin and flux, and you just paint it onto the pieces you want to solder together, put the parts together and heat them up. That's the general plan. But usually I feed in some electrical solder to reinforce the joint. This is soft soldering, it is not silver soldering. There was no point really in silver soldering these parts. Soft solder will be more than strong enough for what I'm doing. And don't forget, soft soldering is not like silver soldering. You only need to get the parts hot enough to melt the solder, not bright red. What I normally do just before I finish soft soldering parts together, I wipe off all the flux with a paintbrush dipped in water. This makes the finished part look a lot better. I don't want to see lots of knobbly bits of solder everywhere. Even though the brush is wet, it is important to withdraw the heat before using the brush. Sometimes I do it wrong and forget and put the brush into the flame and the bristles disappear. This clip is a variation on paint drying. It's called metal cooling. But that's enough of such excess and frivolity. Here are the parts once I cleaned them up. Apart from drilling the holes in a different place in these brackets, I just needed to extend the end parts, as you can see, because as I've moved the position of these, you could see the paint marks where they'd been. So by just extending the end of them, it makes it look a lot better and covers up the paint mark on the canopy. Here I'm fastening the chimney extension to the brackets in their new position. When this part wasn't straight as it was originally built, it really bothered me, and before, every time I looked at the engine on my sideboard, I thought to myself, I must change the position of those brackets. So now's a good time to do it, and it looks far better. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful.